Let's learn how to use the SUMPRODUCT function. By default, this function multiplies values within ranges or arrays, then finds the sum of those products. But it can also do division, addition, and subtraction operations. Here's a simple example of how SUMPRODUCT works. If we want to find out the total spent on these items that were purchased, instead of manually multiplying each unit price by the amount purchased and then adding the results together, we can use SUMPRODUCT to take care of everything in one entry. It behaves like an array function without us having to press Ctrl-Shift-Enter. We just type equals and the function name, open parenthesis, choose our first array, comma, choose the next array, close parenthesis, and enter. And this is the total spent without having to do several steps. With the SUMPRODUCT function, if there's only one array used, SUMPRODUCT will simply add all the values in the array. So if we did SUMPRODUCT and selected only one array, what it would do is to add all the values within the array. 135, which is the same as the total. The second thing to remember is that the arrays must be the same size for the SUMPRODUCT function to work. And something else to note is that if any array argument contains non-numeric values, they'll be treated as zeros. We can also use SUMPRODUCT to perform other arithmetic operations. So if we wanted to perform division, addition, or subtraction, then we'd separate each argument with the appropriate symbol instead of a comma. So if on this sheet we wanted to do SUMPRODUCT and choose first array, but we wanted to do division, we just separate both arrays with the slash, close parenthesis, and we've divided. We can double check that manually to see if that's the right result. So 5 divided by 2, that would be 2.5. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 15 divided by 2, 7.5. Then SUMPRODUCT would add all these results to get the result, 15. Since SUMPRODUCT can be used with up to 255 arrays, it's a good idea to use parentheses so that the operations are performed in the order that you want. That's because Excel follows the PEMDAS order of operations rule. That's parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, and then addition and subtraction. For example, if we have these three arrays and we want to perform a SUMPRODUCT formula, let's see what happens if we just say A1 to A3 minus B1 to B3 times C1 to C3, close parenthesis. What Excel does here is to perform the multiplication operation first, and we get the result 18. But if we really wanted Excel to do the subtraction operation first, then we'd enclose the subtraction within separate parentheses, and we'd get a different result. A fairly common application of SUMPRODUCT is to calculate weighted average. Values might be assigned certain weights based on their priority or weights, which all add up to 100%. So in this example, various weights have been assigned to each test to determine the final score for this subject. Without SUMPRODUCT, we'll probably multiply each score by its weight, expand it here, and then add them together to get the overall grade. By using SUMPRODUCT, we can reduce all those calculations to a single step. Here's the format. We'd use SUMPRODUCT, select our first array, comma, second array, close parentheses, and then divide by the sum of the weights. In this case, since the weights add up to 100%, it really doesn't matter, but there are some times when weights don't add up to 100%, so this last step of dividing by the sum of the weights is really important. So the overall score here is 86%. The SUMPRODUCT function can also be used in creative ways to do what other functions can do. This is especially useful when there are some functions that aren't available on the version of Excel that you're using. One example is the unique function. With the unique function, we can count the number of distinct values in an array, meaning how many different values do we have on this list, removing duplicates. But the unique function is only available in Excel 365. So here's a workaround using SUMPRODUCT. We can combine this function with COUNTIF to count the number of distinct city names that are listed here. So what we'd use is the format SUMPRODUCT, open parenthesis, 1/COUNTIF, open parenthesis, and then our range that we're interested in, comma, and for the criteria we use the same range, and close parenthesis. We also need to close the parenthesis for the SUMPRODUCT function and hit enter. So the result returned is that there are 5 distinct city names. We can check to see that that's true, but let's break down the formula to see how Excel got this result. We'll start with the inner section of this formula, that's with the COUNTIF section. And we know that we use COUNTIF to find out how many times each individual value appears in a specified range. When we selected B2 to B9 both times as the reference range and the criteria range, we're asking Excel to count how many times each value appears in the array. So for Atlanta, we'd have 1, for New York, 3, San Francisco, 1, Tampa, 2, and Toronto, 1. So that would be the result if we were doing the COUNTIF section manually. Then we asked Excel to find the inverse by doing 1/ each result. So what this does is that values which appear twice would each have a value of half. So Tampa would be 0.5, and values which appear 3 times would have a value of 1/3, so 0.33. And then, since SUMPRODUCT adds values when only one array is given, then we'd get the total of 5. So there are 5 distinct city names, and that's how we got this result. The array type functionality of SUMPRODUCT can also be used to expand functions in other ways. Take, for example, the len function, which can only be used for a single cell reference. But what if the values that we want to count are spread across several cells? Like maybe you want to know how many characters are in this entire data set. You could either use len in column B and then add each one. That would give us the right result. And then we just find the total here. And so we know it's 97 characters. But we just did a few steps to get to that answer. A better solution would be to combine SUMPRODUCT with the len function. So we do SUMPRODUCT, len, open parenthesis, select the entire range, close parenthesis for len, close parenthesis for SUMPRODUCT, and then do Control, Shift, and Enter. SUMPRODUCT stores the result of the len formula for each row and then adds the array to get the same result of 97. These are just a few examples of how the SUMPRODUCT function can help you to get even more out of Excel. Check out our resource library to learn more problem-solving techniques in Excel.
Ready to learn more about Microsoft Excel? Then check out the full course on GoSkills.com. Click the link in the description.